comes up. And you can take your seat. So good. Alrighty. How you doing?
Oh, I was like, okay, and then now you've made me real nervous again.
Well, I thought we might as well just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Nervous, but that's fun, eh? Church, you have enough grace for us to be nervous tonight. I wanna have a conversation. I want to get real. I want to get vulnerable. But I also want to invite God into this conversation. And the reason why I want to do that is not just because it's the right thing to do, but I just know what we've been working on, what's birthed out of your heart, what we're about to do with this whole entire church is I generally think it's going to change Port Macquarie. And I mean that in the sense that I have enough faith that if we put what we've done with our time and treasures and talents to God, He can do anything. And so we're going to get to more about what Sammy's doing in a moment, but I just want the church to get to know you, hear your story, and let's just kick it off tonight with how did you come about finding God, even ending up in this church? Tell us a little bit about that story.
Okay, gee. Last time there was about 20 people here. Now there's a full house, so that's exciting for us. So I grew up like a lot of us, not in a religious household. I went to a Catholic school, so believed in God, but didn't really have much of a relationship with Him. Through my teens and into early adulthood, I was the furthest from God. If any of you knew me back then, you would think you'd never see me here, ever. I dabbled in, stuff a lot of young teenagers, young adults do. And I think a lot of that came from a feeling of unworthiness and not accepting myself or feeling like I had to change who I was. I had and still to this day, not as much, but carried a lot of anxiety and a lot of people-pleasing tendencies. So that tended to get me in wrong circles, around wrong crowds, and probably doing not the greatest things. Fast forward to I moved with my hubby, who's downstairs with my baby, moved with him to Sydney, and that was a really positive thing for me. It got me into a space where I was around really healthy, uplifting people. We had a really great circle that were like our family down there, and we led a much healthier life. But it wasn't until I came back to Port Macquarie that I really kind of started thinking more about God. And that was because of my beautiful friends. So most of you know I grew up with Kirsty and knew her through all of those seasons, knew her as a child, knew her as we navigated all of adulthood. In a very unhealthy way. But that was the biggest, I guess, prompt on my heart was seeing the transformation in her life. And still didn't, really think much of this God, Jesus thing. I was just like, I love what you're doing. I love that for you. I love that your life's changed. And then one day I woke up and she was training with me at the gym. So she came to the gym I was at. And I said, I'm coming to church this week. She's like, what? I was like, I don't know. I feel like I need to come to church. Anyway, so that was a good, 5 or so years ago. And I kept showing up to church. Didn't really know what to expect. I felt great coming here. I loved the message. Always felt it was relevant. I loved the people here. I always felt really accepted and a part of something. I really felt loved. But I didn't feel God.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get emotional again. And I thought this happened last time. No. So I had my little boy, Keo, in the midst of COVID, and that was all fine. I owned my own business, and things got really, really overwhelming. So I was in a really bad place, suffered with mental health my whole life, and kind of knew the tools to keep it in check. And, sorry.
You're right.
I was in a space where I kept showing up and Kirsty would pray for me and I'd feel great and it still wasn't enough. And then I came to church one day and Keo was upstairs in kids and he was only a toddler, he was only a baby. And I said to Sam and Kirst, I am doing everything. I'm talking everything the world tells you to do. Yeah. I was seeing a psychologist. I was spending so much money on people to help me with my mental health. I was exercising. I was very much in the wellbeing space, and everyone knew me then. So I was very healthy. I was getting sunshine. I was doing mindfulness. I was doing all the things that you're told to do to make you feel good. And the only thing that was missing was God. So I went upstairs and I said, there's something really wrong with me. I'm broken. I've tried everything. This is like my last chance. I don't know. I want what you have, and I don't know how to get it. And they prayed over me, and Dallas prayed over me, for those of you that know that story. He was only, I think, 2. And I felt it. That was the moment that I felt God's love and God's grace and peace for the first time in my life.
Wow.
And when people say, how do you explain it? I always say, I can't explain it, and I wish I could. But I know that it's real, because I went from being someone that thought nothing could fix me to feeling this undeniable sense of peace for the first time in my life. And since then, it hasn't been easy. I've had lots of seasons, but I've never been that low again. And I think I've had some trying seasons since then, let me tell you. I've had some really, really hard times, but I've never felt alone. And I don't even think it's knowing God's there. Like, we always, we never feel alone when we know we've got God, right? But it's knowing I had so many people here that would pray for me, that would drop everything would drop everything whenever they needed to, would love on me, would support me. It didn't matter what it was, they would show up. And that helped more than anything. Yeah. So the church really got me through it.
Yeah. I think and I really appreciate you being vulnerable, because a lot of times as humans, we do try everything we can to find peace, to find that completion. And it might be a controversial take, but I really believe that every person has something missing. It's like we're all born with it, and whether we feel it with drugs, sex, rock and roll, New Age. We talked about New Age, and aligning with the moon and Mother Nature and all these things we do. There seems to be an industry or a culture out there that everyone's trying to fill the emptiness. Yeah. And yeah.
I think, so I was very much in that space. So I worked in the wellness space, so health and wellbeing, and it's great, it's amazing. It's everything we need. We need to feel good in life. We need to be living our life to the fullest. We need to be healthy and well. But there was different concepts like, manifesting and journaling, which I think journaling's great, but like all these things that you think are going to fix you, and then the New Age is really good at that, because it's like, oh, do this or do this ceremony or do whatever, and you'll get what you're looking for. But I actually felt it did the opposite for me. So it was more like this hierarchy of, oh, I'm broken, I have trauma, I need to do the work, like it's all on me, it's all on my story, it's all on the generations before me, it's my mum's fault, it's whoever's fault. And it actually made me feel worse, because it was like, well, you're not enough, or you need to do personal development, or you need to do these courses, or you need to be doing X, Y, Z to be enough. Yeah. And it never was.
And that's fascinating you say that, because I know we talked about that humanity is born almost empty. We're all looking for something. And it's not a criticism or a judgment. No. I think it's a loving call right now to call out, I know that people are looking for something, and I'm not here just to preach it. I'm here to show you I live it. Yeah. That we found the answer. We found a God that's real. He's there. He's with us. But I do know that we don't mix knowing God and all that with a perfect life and perfection, and we're done now. And I remember you said to me a while back, it seems like every form of self-help, where it's New Age or other things we try, it's all about, do this and do that and change this and all this, all the generations before you. But there's something about the gospel that there's a God that said, hey, I took care of that for you. Yeah. And I'd love to talk about it with you tonight, when I talked about, we find God, but then there's still struggles walking with God. One of those things is our identity. One of those things is what happens. Just talk us through, once you found God and you start to encounter that, what were some of the struggles you encountered?
So, like I said, like I still walked through different things that were tricky and a little bit, not ideal. But I think the biggest one for me, so I had a lot of things during my pregnancy with Kobe, and then when she was born, she was a month early and she had extreme colic. For those in my circle, they'd know just how debilitating that was. That I felt like I was robbed of joy in that whole season. She was so hard. I'm talking not that she was hard, the situation was hard because she was in so much pain and I couldn't do anything about it. All I could do was pray. All I could do was ask for those around me to pray.
And this is when you have a relationship with God.
Yeah.
This is when you've given your life to trusting God,
But I think the difference was I knew it was a season. I knew it wasn't going to be forever. I knew that I was doing everything I could. I knew that I was a good mum and I was trying my hardest because I knew she was a gift and I knew that I could do it. And I think it's funny because when life is really, really hard, sometimes I think God's just saying to us, I'm going to stretch you beyond limits so you know that you can be at your utmost burnt out and still reach in and find something else within you because I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that's true because I'm like, I've never experienced the postnatal anxiety and depression I had and fear I had around her was horrific. And it wasn't easy, but I had faith that it was a season and I had those around me when I couldn't pray anymore in those moments, then I would rally on the people around me that could. And even though it was hard and it wasn't fixed and it wasn't a miracle, it wasn't overnight, I still felt held and I still felt loved and I still felt supported. And that was enough to get me through it.
That's a really interesting point because you say when life gave me trials and I had trouble when I was before knowing God, it's just my life's broken. It's just my life has issues and I'm trying to figure it out. When I have the anxiety, pain and the stuff with God, like God's there and I'm having stuff with my second child, you're talking in a language of, but I'm made for more. Like, I know God's going to do something good out of this. I know that this isn't a waste of pain. This isn't just me going through something because poor me. But I know that there's a God here that's faithful and he's got my back and he's walking with me. But I think the trials in our lives also reflect the community in our lives. And it has to. I mean, if we were just all living perfect lives, we don't need community and we kind of don't need God in return. So being made for more is tied to how we get through things, not how we avoid things, but how we get through things. And I often say to people, never tie yourself to how you've begun your journey. Focus on that you can finish well. And that's a message for anyone tonight that hears that, whether you're in a struggle, you're in pain, you're going through something, you're not sure. Never think that your identity is tied into what you're going through or how you've begun your journey. There's a God that's waiting at a finish line with so much grace. And this life isn't about how we begin it, but it sure heck can be finished well and how we finish it. And your life is heading in that direction. But I do know we talked about, we got community, we got all of that. The question is, once I find God, or I know Jesus died for me and I'm in church, I'm doing all the right things, I know you said to me this week, you're like, then people would say, or I said this, what now? Like, what happens? Do I just come to church and that's like surely there's got to be more than just getting to the cross and Jesus died for me in grace. Like, what happens after that? I know you struggled with that. Tell us a bit about that.
So I struggled with doing it on my own. Right, so because you're like you've changed your life and you see things differently and God prompts your heart, and so when I went back to work, I was in a little bit of a tricky environment. Loved my job, it was amazing. Every morning I'd pray on the way to work. That's my thing, to pray in the car after I drop the kids off and I have some peace and quiet. But I'd pray that I could soften my heart, be more accepting, not be judgmental, and just do whatever I needed to do, right? I'm always like, Jesus, just do what you need to with me. Just show up and do what you will. So I think it's easy to get a little bit deflated. It's easy to get off track. It's easy to feel like when there's no amazing miracle or there's, a big thing that happens, it's easy to go, oh, well, that was good, but like it's not all the time. Or what do I do now? What do I do to have this all the time? And I knew seasons and things like that. And I actually had to go through this myself. So a big part of this last season for me has been obedience and actually listening. When you've come from a space of either being a little bit anxious or a bit of a control freak, or, like having to have your whole life in order, you think you know better. And it's easy to go, I'm working my whole life out and this is the plan and this is how I want it to go and I know how it should be because, this is what I've decided for myself. I had God yelling at me. He was yelling at me to step back from everything I was doing. I had to close every chapter of my life at that moment. And I had to have the most trust in the world. So our rental property fell through and I had to move back in with my mum and my stepdad, which, is testing when you're in a 4-bedroom home sharing space with 2 kids that need to still be kids. It was such a blessing at the same time because I think I got to witness them have a beautiful relationship with them, and I'll never, ever, ever take that for granted, and how much they really supported me in that time. But I, one night, literally prayed and God said, resign from your job.
Thanks, God.
Thanks. I just lost my rental. I was moving with my parents and now I'm going to have no job. Okay. And I sat with it at 9:30 at night. I wrote an email to my boss saying, I'm resigning. This is my 2 weeks notice. This is a job that I loved. I was working in community services, so I was helping people. It's my heart's work. It's everything I've wanted to do. It paid really well for a part-time job. It was really flexible around my kids, and it was work that I'd birthed out of my own experiences to deliver in the community, and I loved it. But I did it. I sent the email and I didn't know what was coming next. I was so afraid because I now didn't have a job. I was living with my parents. For society, from the world, it looks like you're going 10 steps backwards and you're a failure. But I knew in my heart I had to trust. I had to trust and have so much faith in that. That was part of the next step for me. So in that time, I went through, it was 6 months, no longer than that, probably 9 months, where I had to really do the work, really tap in and really rest. And I honestly think I was given that time to rest because I had such a hard season with Kobe, that my nervous system just needed to go, it's okay, it's all right.
Yeah.
You can breathe and get ready for this next journey. So I did that. I actually found the perfect job. I saw it pop up on Seek and I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. This is great. I applied and I got it within the hour. And I was like, this is meant to be. It's exactly how it's meant to be. And then I was still going through bits and pieces, trying to figure everything out. And then they rang me about starting, and and I said, I just need to clarify my hours because it was part-time. Big thing for me is I only want to be part-time because my babies are only young for a short amount of time. I don't want to miss out on that, no matter what that means financially. And she's like, no, it's 5 days. It's part-time over 5 days. And I was like, oh gosh, I can't do that. I can't sacrifice them days with my kids because I just refuse to. That's what's important to me. So I had to say no. I had to say I can't take it. My dream job, and I had to say no. But it felt okay because I knew it was part of it. And I think that's the difference with really surrendering to God. So when I first found God, I had to surrender everything I thought I knew. And go, okay, I've given up everything. If you're real, show up for me. And through those months, I really had to trust that He was taking the reins and was leading me to something better. So I had a beautiful Christmas break with our family in New Zealand, with my family, and I was constantly in a space of distraction. So, I'd use my days feeling guilty that I wasn't with my kids because I couldn't take my kids out of childcare to spend time with them because I'd lose a spot. So I'd feel guilty. I'd sit there and go, oh, wow, how dare I go for a swim or, read a book or whatever.
You told me you watched like 20 hours of Netflix.
Binge Netflix. And then I was driving after daycare one day, like I always did, and God said to me, go to Korong, go to the bookshop, Christian bookshop. Go there. And I was like, okay. Went in there and just fluffed around and had a look. And I got a new devotional and another one that you actually fill out. So it's a 60-day like journal where you follow what you need to. And I was like, okay, I'm going to use my time to actually do stuff I should be doing, or that's going to really help. And every time I'd go to, I don't know, read a book or scroll social media or whatever, when I had hours to myself, God would say to me, I gave you this time to get closer to me. Like, I gave it not to be distracted, not to watch Netflix. Like, this is a chance for you to get closer to me.
Wow.
And I'd sit in church, and I think there was one week before, I don't know, Sam was talking about like serving in the church, and I'd been through the season with Cobes, and I was like, yep, I'm in a space, I'm ready to serve. Like, I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm just, whatever you need me to do. And I messaged them, these guys. I said, wherever you want me, just let me know. Like, happy to do it. And Kerr said to me, pray about it. And I was like, oh, okay, I will, fine. Anyway, so I dropped the kids at school, and I was driving to Lake Cut-Eye, and I prayed about it. And I was like, okay, God, tell me, what can I do? What can I do in my church? What can I do to serve? Like, where do you want me? And he told me the song Made for More came on.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, yep, this is a nice song. No, I was like, I really felt that I needed to do what I'd done in all those years in writing wellbeing programs and looking after people, that I needed to do a faith-based one. And so I spent weeks doing that. But then it still didn't feel right. And so I took it back to God, and we got really clear on what I needed for myself in that season. And it was to spend time with God, to spend time looking after me, because we're worldly people. We live in the world. We have to look after our physical body, and to do more for other people. So I wrote a program for myself and I followed it. And every single day I'd do G2P. So I do God time, temple time, people time. And I just make that my priority every single day. It didn't have to be something extreme. I just wanted to make sure that I was spending time with God each day. I was doing something for myself, no matter how big or small, and I did something for someone else. And I did that for the next few months. And then I started to feel better. I started to get into a space where I'm like, I remember saying to Sam when we were talking about programs and things like that, he's like, I want to get you up and I want to interview. And I said, just wait, because this is part of it. Like, I don't know where it's going, but I know I'm nearly like through this hard part. And I went to a local interagency meeting without a job. It was that shameful turning up, not going to an interagency meeting when you don't actually have a job. So I turned up and I was like, hi, I'm Sammy, I don't actually work, but if anyone wants to give me a job. No, but really important to me because it was for community, and it's something I'm really passionate about. Anyway, from that, a month later, I got a call from someone I really, really respect in the community who offered me a job. And it's funny because every hard thing I'd been through in my previous role, every part of unworthiness, every part of not being heard, every part of not being good enough was fixed. So I started my new job, and I won't get into what it is or what I do and where it is and things like that, but this is something I've needed my whole life. And it's funny that when you listen or when you actually follow what God has for you,
actually follow
it will be, you could not have dreamed it up, right? At the same time, we got accepted for a rental right down the road from our best friends, right near our school. And we all know what the rental market's like at the moment. You can't, like, there's 40 people looking at a house. It's so expensive, it's ridiculous. The property manager rang me and said, hey, I saw that you inquired about this house. Do you just want to come and I'll just give you guys a look at it? Offered it to us, didn't show anybody else. And I'm like, you cannot make this up. You cannot make this up. Like, the rest, the job, the house, like everything just lined up, and that's because I trusted.
Yeah.
I listened, I was obedient, and I trusted. I'm like, not yet, because every part of me was like, oh, you need to get a job. Like the world says you need to get a job. I need an income. I can't just be having days off when my kids are at school. But I knew I had to wait. I knew you cannot deny that feeling when you're like, oh, wow, he's telling me what to do. I better not just think I know better because I might get in trouble. Or it might be something else. But it's true because it is.
Yeah.
It's now I can sit back and go, I knew that you had something better for me. Yeah. You had something better for me. And through that, I got to actually birth something that is so true to everything I've ever wanted to do. Yeah. But now it's a faith-based approach. I'm like, perfect, that's what was missing. And when I look at my own testimony, that's what was missing. Yeah. So I did every well-being thing I thought I needed to do to make me feel better, to look after my mental health, and the only thing missing was God. And now I got to write a program in my time of rest, 6 months off where I thought I was failing, that I was going 10 steps back, where I didn't have a job, I didn't have a house, I didn't have an income, and I got to birth something that was everything that I needed for myself. And I know that will help other people.
Yep. And I just want to give context to what Sam's saying. Kirsten and I have always said that Hard House wants to be a church that makes it really easy for people to get to the cross. And what I mean by that is really easy to walk in here with their mess and know that God's grace will meet them exactly where they're at. Really easy to walk into a place that won't judge them, shame them, throw them out because their look smells or whatever they're doing. It's just a place of safety. And so our goal is to always get people to the cross. And I think we've done a pretty good job at that. I mean, if you're here with us today, like Hard House is really trying to break down walls of how do people find God. But something that always lingered over us is what happens once you find the cross? Like what happens if you're a Sammy and you're coming through and you find Jesus and you know about God? What happens after? Like who holds your hand? How do you do this thing called life? Because it's more than a Sunday and you really are made for more. You're not just made for something or just to be here. You're really made for more in your life. And I know that Kirsten and I, we always say this, that finding God is more than just belonging. It's about becoming. And I think humans forgot the belonging part right, which is, you and I sitting here today. What does becoming look like? And so Sam's been working really hard. She's spent her time on this. And she's come up with a thing that we're calling it the program, it's Made for More, but it's really a way for our church to become faithful, to become more graceful, to become more caring, to do life with each other outside of Sunday. Not in a Bible study or another event or something else we have to do, or you feel guilty if you don't show up, but more just like a gentle reminder every day that you're made for more. And so are the people around you, and so is the people that, we got your back in this, and you've rolled this out, and you sat down with us, and we started talking about what happens after the cross here at Hard House. And so we came up with Made for More. And we believe that every human on the face of the planet in Port Macquarie, in this room, truly is made for more. And I know a lot of us have found our way to the cross. But there's a life after the cross. And it's how we live. And it's not just about belonging, but it's about becoming. And so next week, we're gonna share more about what that looks like. In short, we'd love for people to start meeting throughout the week in groups and having meals and sharing their struggles or helping each other move houses or whatever you want to put into that, but creating a network outside of Sundays that we're actually doing life together or we have each other's backs. And we'll get more into that next week, but I just wanted to read you this verse that we're actually standing on. It's in Hebrews 10:24, and it says, "Let us consider how to stir one another up to love and do good works, not neglecting meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another daily as the day draws near where Jesus comes back." And I want to encourage us as a church that Hard House is, we're going to allow Paul Macquarie to know that it's easy to get to the cross. It's easy to find Jesus. It's easy to be accepted by his wonderful love and grace. But we also want to show you that we'll walk life with you. And we're going to do life together. And we've got your back. And I know that what you're working on and what you have worked on, and as we roll this out the next couple of weeks, and I'll talk a bit about it at the end of the service, but it's going to be life-changing for my life, for our life, for your life, for everyone's lives, that something that you went through, your own struggles, your own pain, your own, I found God, now what, has led you to create something that I think is so beautiful and so magnificent that it's going to really change the face of Port Macquarie. And I believe that in my heart. I'm not just fluffing it up. I believe, and I have enough faith, that hundreds of people will come to know Christ, and then hundreds of people won't just, know Christ, but they will represent Christ in their circles. So is there anything you want to encourage us with as you prepare to close?
As I was reading this today, I just thought it was perfect for the season I've just walked in. Maybe other people as they think about what this next season looks like for them. So, living word, the word of God is living and active and sharper than any two-edged sword, and piercing as far as the division of soul and spirit, of both joints and marrow, and able to judge the thoughts and intentions of the heart. Have you ever noticed God speaking to you in themes? We all go through different seasons in life, and God speaks to our hearts accordingly. Some of us may be going through a season of learning to wait, while another is learning how to step out in faith. But the beautiful thing about God is that He's big enough to speak to all of us in our different places, with our different hearts at the same time, with the same words. God's word is alive and active. It can deliver truth to the heart of each unique person. Two people can get something completely different from the same passage of scripture because of what God has been doing in each of their hearts separately. Through the body of Christ, we can come together and share what God is teaching us, multiplying our individual growth as we encourage one another. And I just thought, how fitting that is exactly what this is about. This is exactly what my season's been about, like my own experience, but it's exactly what we've prayed for and want for this program.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited.
I'm excited too. And, I always hang on the verse that Jesus in Matthew said. He goes, pretty much there's two things, apart from the commandments of loving Him unconditionally, loving people unconditionally. He said there's two things. He said, preach the gospel and make disciples of all nations. And I think it's more important just to preach the gospel of love, and we know God's a good God, but to be actively disciples of all nations and reaching all people in all walks of lives in our own journeys, our own family members, our own people that are away from God, our own friends and neighbors and that are around us that don't know of God yet. Our lives matter, and how we run our lives or how we do our lives matter too. And it's more than a Sunday, and the reality is we're all made for more. And so I'm excited about part 2 next week. We're going to talk about what's going to be happening, but I just want to thank you for being so honest and vulnerable tonight and sharing a story. Can we put up for Sammy real quick for sharing that with us?